You know, you probably think you're just being careful. You think you're being incredibly responsible by mulling over that big choice in your head day after day, trying to get it exactly right. Well, in today's explainer, we're going to break that loop. We are diving deep into the psychology of decisive action. And by the end of this, you're going to see your own mind entirely differently. You might even finally make that call you've been sitting on for weeks.
So, what specific decision are you actively avoiding right now? I want you to literally keep that exact choice in mind as we unpack what's happening in your head. Maybe it's a massive life choice, like a career switch, leaving a relationship, or packing up and moving to a totally new city. Or, hey, maybe it's something that looks small on paper, like a tough conversation you've been dodging, or a project you just keep pushing off. But you think about it first thing in the morning. You think about it in the shower. You replay it at night when you're staring at the ceiling trying to sleep. You've run every best case scenario and you've absolutely catastrophized every worst case scenario. And yet you are still sitting right exactly where you started.
All right, let's get right into part one, the illusion of thinking.
What you're experiencing right now, it's not actual thinking. Your brain is essentially looping scenarios and disguising that endless repetitive cycle as responsible, diligent problem solving. It's totally selling you on the idea of preparation. It whispers, hey, if we just gather a tiny bit more information or look at just one more angle, certainty will finally arrive. But the reality is actually just paralysis. You aren't getting a single step closer to the answer. You're just getting more deeply attached to the fear of making a mistake. The harsh truth, certainty was never coming.
As the saying goes, there is no correct answer, hidden somewhere waiting to be discovered. There are only trade-offs. See, most of the really heavy decisions you agonize over aren't math problems. There's no neat little equation with a tidy answer at the end. The uncertainty isn't a bug in the system that you can fix. It's a feature built into the situation itself. And no amount of looping, pacing the floor, or overthinking is ever going to magically eliminate those fundamental trade-offs.
And that brings us to part two, the hidden cost of waiting.
Staying stuck in this loop isn't a neutral act. While you might think you're just hitting pause to catch your breath, your delay is actively worsening your situation. The window for easy action is closing right in front of you. Every single day you put off that choice, your nervous system actually categorizes it as danger unresolved. It literally keeps the file open as an active, buzzing threat. The fear gets louder, not quieter. So what started out as a perfectly manageable everyday decision suddenly feels enormous and totally overwhelming. Not because the decision itself is actually that big, but because of all the intense anxiety you've just tightly wrapped around it over weeks and months of waiting. Here is a really hard truth to swallow. A mediocre decision made today beats a perfect decision that never happens every single time. A real choice, even an entirely imperfect one, actually gives you vital feedback. It physically moves things forward and teaches you something real that you can use to adjust your course. But that perfect choice, the flawless one that only exists in your imagination, it teaches you absolutely nothing. And in the meantime, it's straining your time, your energy, and your peace of mind.
So, if this is so harmful, why on earth do we do it? Let's explore part three, your brain's survival code.
First off, I want to assure you, your constant overthinking is not a personality flaw. It's not a sign of weakness, and it definitely doesn't mean you're just a naturally indecisive person. It's actually an evolutionary misfire. See, in the distant past, hesitation equaled survival. Our brains evolved in these highly dangerous, unpredictable environments where thinking through a threat carefully, turning it over, checking every single angle before making a move, that literally kept our ancestors alive. But today, your brain is running that exact same survival code, and it genuinely cannot tell the difference between a literal saber-toothed tiger and, say, choosing a new health insurance plan. So it throws you into this endless analysis mode and screams at you not to move until everything is 100% resolved. You aren't broken. You are just using a really old survival tool for a modern problem it was never built to solve.
Now let's flip the script. Welcome to part four, the unconscious advantage.
Modern psychology actually turns everything we think we know about thinking hard completely upside down. Take the fascinating work of psychologist Timothy Wilson over at the University of Virginia. He spent years studying a concept that he calls the adaptive unconscious. Now, this is the incredibly powerful part of your mind that is constantly processing vast amounts of information entirely below the surface, completely outside of your day-to-day awareness.
Wilson designed this absolutely brilliant study. He had two distinct test groups evaluate a really complex set of options. Honestly, the exact kind of messy variables you're probably stuck on right now. Group 1, the analytical group, was given ample time for conscious deliberation. They could overthink it as much as they wanted, dissecting every detail.
Group 2, the distracted group, was given absolutely zero time for conscious deliberation. They were actively distracted and forced to rely purely on their instinct when making their choice. The results are absolutely striking. The distracted group ended up with significantly higher choice satisfaction than the analytical group. Now, why did the group that thought less actually do better? Well, it's because your conscious mind can only hold so many variables at one time before it just gets completely overwhelmed. But your adaptive unconscious, it's processing all of it effortlessly. It's pulling from every piece of information you've ever absorbed, every lived experience you've had, and every core value you hold. When you overthink, you aren't adding wisdom. Past a certain point, you are literally overriding the part of you that has already done the heavy lifting. Your gut feeling isn't just random noise. It is very often the most highly processed, accurate signal you have.
So how do we actually learn to trust that signal? Let's move right into part 5, how to break the loop. I'm going to give you a highly practical toolkit of 3 essential questions to break free. Question 1. What information would genuinely change your choice? I really want you to challenge yourself here. Don't ask what would make you feel more comfortable. Ask what hard fact would actually alter the final outcome. Because if you cannot specifically name that missing piece of information, then you already have everything you need. The comfort you are desperately looking for does not come before the decision. It only ever comes after.
Okay, question 2. What is the cost of not deciding? We spend so much of our mental energy terrified of making the wrong choice that we completely ignore what staying stuck in the loop is costing us right now. Listen, not deciding is a decision itself. You have to start counting the real cost of your delay. Think about the lost time, the totally drained energy, the missed opportunities. Think about the vibrant, moving version of your life that was entirely possible but never became real just because you held back. And finally, question 3. What would the person I'm becoming do here? I don't want you to ask who you are right now, all wrapped up in your current fear and mental noise. Look way past that. Think about the future version of yourself that you are actively working toward. The person who takes action, who confidently commits, who takes a loss when it inevitably comes and just keeps going anyway. What does that person do in this exact scenario? I'm willing to bet you probably already know the answer.
Which brings us to our conclusion, the final call to action.
We have exposed the illusion of overthinking, measured the hidden costs of waiting, and decoded your brain's ancient survival mechanisms. Now, the research points to 3 concrete steps to literally force your brain out of its loop. Step 1, pick a specific deadline. Please do not settle for some vague intention like, oh, I'll decide next week. Pick a specific date and time. The research actively proves that hard deadlines create decisions of equal or even better quality, simply because your brain works entirely differently when it knows the loop has an unmovable end. Step 2, write that deadline down right now. And step 3, just make the call.
Remember this quote: "The bad decisions aren't what stops you. The indefinite delay is." The people who make real, tangible progress in life are not some kind of magical beings who never make bad decisions. They are simply people who make decisions, both good ones and bad ones, and they use the feedback from both to continuously move forward. The endless looping in your head is not protecting you from failure. It is simply keeping you standing completely still. So, I'll leave you with this. Go back to that specific choice you anchored on at the very beginning of this explainer. The decision you've been endlessly circling is probably nowhere near as complex as it has become in your mind. Cut through the noise, name the facts you actually know for sure, and set that hard deadline. What decision will you finally make today? It is time to take imperfect action. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.